This is Evangelist George McTire of the Word of God Ministry. And for the next few minutes, I want to give you a little talk on this thought of why I say that most black Christians lack wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Now, I'm talking about naturally of God and His ways. And I hope you can get a little something from this. But as I observe what is going on in this nation as it pertains to the condition of the black community, all I can do is shake my head in disgust because most blacks identify themselves as being Christians, yet they have an affinity for embracing those things that Jesus Christ warns will lead to their destruction. Now, throughout the Bible, we are told in no uncertain terms to love God and to hate evil. You can go to the book of Job, read chapter number 1, verse number 1, and then go down to verse number 8 in that same chapter. Then go to chapter number 2 and read verse number 3. And what you will see is that this is the key to being perfect in His eyes. Whose eyes? God's eyes. Because God is the one that called Job perfect, and He gave this description of him for his calling him that. Anyway, now Solomon, the son of David, penned what best can be best described as the blueprint for achieving that condition that we just read about in Job when he wrote this. He says in Proverbs chapter number 1, verse number 7, he says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." And then if we go to Proverbs chapter number 9 and verse number 10, we find these words. It says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding." Now, notice the terms wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. All three of them work in conjunction to reinforce each other and to elevate a person to a position that essentially places them far above the worldly crowd and the carnal or worldly minded Christian. Because when you achieve that status, God is able to use you to His glory by allowing you to see things as He sees them. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. Now, all of us know how to drive a car. Now, you may not know how to drive a stick shift, but you do know the basics to at least get it, talking about the car, started. Now, after you get it started, you know to get it to move, you put it in drive or reverse depending on which way you want to go. Now, basically, that is all there is to being able to move the car. However, those are just the basics. What you need to be able to do is drive the car safely. That takes wisdom and understanding, without which you are a disaster waiting to happen. You have to be able to know what the conditions of the road are and what the speed limit is. You also need to be able to determine when to adjust your speed depending on those conditions. Otherwise, bam, crunch, whop. Just because the speed limit is 75 does not mean you can drive at that speed if the roads are slick or icy, or if traffic is congested. Now, if you can understand that, then you are halfway to the place of understanding God and His directions to His children. The first instruction is that you love or fear the Lord. This essentially means that you give Him priority over your life, meaning whatever He tells you to do, you do it. He has become your master or parent, and you are His servant or child. You essentially remove your thoughts about things to the back burner. If you don't, then you are a disobedient servant or child, and as such, it will get you nowhere except into more trouble. Now, this is the main problem that most black Christians have in their walk with God. They want to put what they want ahead of what God says. Now, a wise and knowledgeable person using wisdom and understanding of God would know that this sort of thing spells trouble with a capital T, because then this Christian is making their desires ahead of what God says, or he's putting his desires ahead of what God says. When you get a chance, I want you to read what Solomon has to say about people that disregard what God says for their own satisfaction. Read Proverbs chapter number 1, verses 24 to 33. Read the whole thing. In other words, from chapter number 1, verses 24 through to the end, and you'll see the picture that God paints. Now, I'll get back to that in a little bit later, about making another comment about that. Anyway, most black Christians today have an identity problem. They want to claim that they are Christians while at the same time claiming to be African American. In the eyes of God, you might as well claim that you are an African American, because the two are in conflict with each other. The reason being, the African American community as a whole has desires that they want to see implemented in this nation that only one party claims it will do so after they get control in the nation, which means these people need to support that party. The thing is, the foundational agenda of that party is steeped with things that God condemns. things that are worse than what he destroyed other nations before us for. Yet, because the black community sees its hope in this party, black Christians turn out in droves to support them. They evidently have no clue as to how God sees this. Now, if we go to the book of Amos in the Old Testament, chapter number 3, we're going to read verse number 3. It says, "Can two walk together except they be agreed?" Meaning, even if you claim you do not support their foundational agenda, the fact that you support them because of their promises to you, you are by default supporting that agenda as well. An agenda that is far more serious than your little desires. Just like us, God has priorities that he wants us to get in line with first. When we do that, then he will straighten up what is wrong in our community, not the other way around. Remember, Jesus said in Matthew chapter number 6 and verse number 33, he said, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." Now notice, God is saying that if we do things his way, he will add what we need to us. We will not have to beg or compromise our souls to get what we need. This is why for a long time I have been saying that the black community needs new leadership. We need preachers that have a full understanding of God or Jesus Christ and the knowledge and wisdom to be able to see exactly where we are going astray and getting us on the right track. Not with those that are enemies of Christ, but with Christ himself. Otherwise, we will remain at the bottom of the proverbial bucket, fighting and clawing our way to the top just to be knocked down to the bottom again. Our condition is one of our own making. And the thing is, as it says in Proverbs above, which I mentioned I was going to get back to earlier, Proverbs chapter number 1, from verse number 23 down, whatever the thing is, down to the end there. It says, God is sitting there laughing at us and our foolishness. Now, not only that, but we compound the problems when we attack those that are bringing us his message and blaming them for our condition. Because now you are by default attacking him, talking about God. Any person that God sends out as his messenger is his anointed. And woe to anyone that lifts a finger against them. Now, why is the black community doing this? Primarily because of the blind leadership in the pulpits of the churches in our community. Not all, but definitely most. And since it is preachers and Christians that are supporting this wickedness, those outside of the church feel that they aren't doing anything wrong. God must approve of it. If things are going to turn around for the better for the black community, then we are going to have to do a 180 in our in who we support and who we reject. There is a party that is engaged in doing just that. Well, this is Evangelist George McTire, and I hope you got something from this message. Uh, like I say, it's just short and to the point. Uh, it's something that needs to be thought about, well thought about, because too many times we just overlook things. What sounds good or feels good, we do it, or we support it, or whatever the case may be, not realizing that if you don't know what God has to say about what it is you're doing and the connection to how things go according to what He says, that's why you're in serious trouble. That's why the black community remains in the position that it's in. Why everybody seems to be leapfrogging over us and getting out of the barrel, and we're still down, out of the bucket, and we're still down at the bottom, fighting and clawing to get out. And every time we think we're going to make it out, somebody else leapfrogs over us and knocks us back down to the bottom again. And it's not because of what somebody else is doing, it's what we are doing to ourselves. So I hope that you got something from that message today, and if you have gotten something from it, hit the like button. um, you can subscribe to the messages that I put out from this ministry and so forth, and visit the ministry website. There's some books and things that I have published and so forth that you might be interested in. I got 5 books on the home page that are free for you to download. They're in the PDF format. One of which is the Democratic Party's War Against Christianity. That's a book that you need to get, because it'll give you all of the details about just exactly what all of these things that the Democratic Party is supporting, and how it lines up with what God says is right and wrong in this nation. And it mostly is what is wrong in the nation. Another thing that the black community should be interested in is a book called Had, Hoodwinked, and Bamboozled: How Willie Lynch is Running Wild in the Democratic Party. Y'all want to talk about the Republicans being racist? You don't know what racism really is unless uh, you're supporting the originators and the basic supporters of racism. You be talking about all these laws that are on the books in the United States that we need to get rid of. Who you think put a lot of them laws in place? Democratic Party. You think the rise of all these women and things like the Maxine Waters, the Jasmine Crockett's, the Kamala Harris's, the uh, uh, Fannie, whatever her name is in Atlanta, and then you got the attorney general supposed to be in New York. All these women and things coming forth. You got the Elon Omars and the Rashida Tlaibs and things like that. All these women are coming up, people of color, so to speak. All these women are getting up there in the front and things like that, and the men are being strangely quiet about that. You think that's by accident? If you ever read the Willie Lynch letters or read the book, like I said, they're free to download. Read them, you'll see who the real racists are. You think that Barack Obama, you think the Democratic Party did that out of the kindness of their hearts to put Barack Obama up to run for president? No, they had an agenda that they wanted to get passed. They tried to get it passed when Bill Clinton was in office, but black folks wouldn't go along with it. So they said the only way we're gonna get this passed is we're gonna have to get a black man in office, and he can get the black people to to go along with it. So what did they do? They elected Barack Obama, put Barack Obama up there. Black folks came out of the hospitals, out of the nursing homes. Some of them probably rose up from the grave and went in and voted for Barack Obama, and he became president. And what's the first thing he did? Uh, Fulfilled what it was the Democratic Party wanted, and that was control over the healthcare system in this nation. Now it's a mess, and everybody wants to blame the Republicans for it. No, blame your racist Democratic Party, so to speak. But anyway, uh, all of that stuff is in the books and so forth. Because I wrote those books, some of those books go all the way back to 1994. And some of the things that I wrote in the books back then, I had no necessarily no. It wasn't like I was seeing this stuff happening back then, but a lot of that stuff that I wrote back then is prophetic because it's happening today, some 30 some odd years later. So, enough of that today. So, like I say, hit the like button and things, and till we get together again, to you and yours, may God bless you and your families real good. Good day.